Hello and welcome to In Focus, where we have a roundup of all the human stories from Poland and around the region. With me, Ashim Kumar. Poland has a long road ahead after facing one of its worst natural disasters in more than 2 decades. The southwest of the country experienced torrential rainstorms, causing rivers to overflow, devastating lives across the region. Although clean-up operations have commenced in some areas, a state of emergency still exists in others. Those hit hardest by the floods are set to receive wide-ranging support from the government.
2 weeks after wild weather first devastated Poland, for some it's still all too much.
Wszystko popłynęło.
The water took everything. The furniture. I don't know if I'll save the fridge. I don't have where to wash my clothes.
In the Opole region, locals will have to move into container homes.
The number of people in need of container homes is constantly growing as we're carrying out inspections and subsequent homes are being excluded from the possibility of habitation.
And as parts of the country enter recovery mode, businesses have also seen their income and livelihoods shattered.
The insurance assessor I hired evaluated the losses at 63,000 euros. For the time being, we've received roughly 200.
But now, a lifeline from Warsaw. In the last 24 hours, Polish President Andrzej Duda signed off on a special amendment bill to help flood victims, which had already passed through the Sejm and Senate. Employees will get a maximum of 20 days of extra paid leave to clear property, and a ban on Sunday trading has been lifted in post-flood areas for basic necessities. Affected families will receive an emergency benefit of about 230 euros to meet the needs of children in education. And for those eligible, the same amount is available to cover the costs of drying out their apartment or house. Even with this support, it's clear the cleanup will take years and cost billions.
The bill is crucial. Without this bill, these people would be left alone. So this is very important for them to bring some assistance for them to reorganize their lives, their everyday lives that changed in one day.
And for Wojciech Szendronów, the hope is that there is more assistance to come.
No I trudno, trzeba dalej jakoś pchać.
Oh well, you'll have to keep on living somehow.
Polls show the majority of people in this country feel positively about the government's flood response, but there's also been fierce political criticism of Donald Tusk's coalition. Behind me is the presidential palace, and with a presidential election next year, voters will be watching every step and misstep of those in power. In Warsaw for TVP World, I'm Aaron Darman.
The 49th Polish Feature Film Festival, one of the country's most important cinematic events, concluded last Saturday in Gdynia. At the official closing gala, awards were presented in 10 categories, including Best Film, Best Director, Best Screenplay and Acting awards. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of the week-long festival.
We know the verdict, the awards have been presented. Now the fate of the films will be decided by the viewers. The Golden Lion was awarded to a production that has already been screening in Polish cinemas for a year, Green Border by Agnieszka Holland. It has already won several international awards, including the special jury prize at the 80th Venice Film Festival. The most awarded title at this year's festival in Gdynia is the Danish Oscar contender, The Girl with the Needle. The film received the Silver Lion and 5 other awards. However, audiences will have to wait until next year to watch it. This film is bound to generate a lot of buzz in the future.
Caroline?
I would like to thank my wife and my colleagues. I've been in this country for 20 years and I now have a real passport. This is not the first film we've made together.
The film White Courage won a total of 4 awards, including for direction and screenplay. film portrays a controversial topic through the story of two brothers, Jędrek and Maciej, who find themselves on the opposite sides of a moral and ideological conflict.
I had planned to step away from directing after this film and work as a cinematographer instead. It's a great honor for me that I directed this film as a cinematographer and that it was chosen among such wonderful works. I would like to thank everyone who supported the production of this film, especially my wife, my son, and my daughter, for enduring with a person who has traumas and struggles with mental health.
The biggest loser of the gala was the Polish Oscar contender, Under the Volcano, received only one award, Best Professional Acting Debut for Zofia Berezowska. The movie, told from the point of view of a 16-year-old Sofia, tells the story of a blended Ukrainian family that spends the last day of their vacation on Tenerife. When Russia's invasion of Ukraine strands them on the island, they must contend with isolation, duty, fear, and each other, the feature's logline says. And when we'll see other films from Gdynia? Next week, a film about the best Polish boxer will hit theaters. Kulej, All That Glitters Isn't Gold.
Ja się stęskniłem za tym łóżeczkiem.
A za czymś jeszcze tęskniłeś?
The film tells the story of the 1960s in the era of the People's Republic of Poland, where the connection between culture and sports seemed much stronger. It's a multi-dimensional film, but primarily about sports. Playing a supporting role requires one to accept certain limitations. However, I appreciate humility, because within those constraints, I find a kind of freedom.
We'll have to wait until November for the premiere of the film Mengun, which explores the Chinese ritual of posthumous weddings, featuring Marcin Dorociński in the lead role, and who is very well known to the international audience.
Hello? Cinema serves various roles. It should entertain, but also has the power to pose difficult questions without necessarily providing answers. This is exactly what this film achieves.
For the screenings of Simona Kossak, you'll probably need to put on a warm sweater. The film about the famous biologist will hit theaters in the last week of November.
Wygrałem.
Przeleciałeś moją sztywną siostrę? Jeszcze mi podziękujesz.
Next year we'll see the 50th anniversary edition of one of the most important film festivals in Poland.
4 days, over 30 institutions and numerous accompanying events. Last weekend, Warsaw hosted the Warsaw Gallery Weekend, an annual art festival and one of the largest in Central and Eastern Europe. For the 14th time, the event featured the best galleries from Poland and abroad. Let's take a look.
This is the 14th edition of Warsaw Gallery Weekend, which is now probably the largest contemporary art event in this part of Europe. This year we have over 40 exhibitions by 37 galleries, not only from Warsaw, but visiting from across Poland, Romania, Hungary and Latvia. This is this very particular kind of event that animates whole city of Warsaw to go around and discover what is the most up-to-date or vibrant or important in the contemporary arts. For the past 14 years we grew exponentially. We started with only a few galleries, like making this 2 days of common hours of being open with new exhibition. Today, the scale of this event became a little bit even, you can say, inhuman, because it's impossible to see it over the weekend. But why is that? Solely because of the public interest. People of all ages and walks of life gather to visit, to walk around the city and visit the art. What is their competence? I know they share one thing, that they know that art is something that relates to or helps them to find their way in the world and how they relate to the reality that we have to face every day.
Marcin Janusz presents a very experimental approach for the technique. His paintings is not only two-dimensional, but he works with a very specific material which makes it more in a sculptural way, reliefic. It goes past beyond the flat surface. So he used, for example, soil, resin, but also sugar. All of this material has kind of symbolic meaning in his paintings, but it also, we have to take care of it because otherwise it could disappear from the surface of the paintings. And for him, this disappearance, the possibility of disappearance of the sugar means that we have to take care of it, as well as we have to take care of the nature. He creates environment which is kind of a fairy tale, but also with some kind of nostalgia or something scary. So the atmosphere of his work is very peculiar. I would say that for sure there is a much wider audience during the Warsaw Gallery Weekend, especially maybe audience which usually go to the institutions, but maybe not to the private galleries. So they are for sure interested in art. But yeah, the audience is more wide. And especially we see the people who are coming back each year because we have this some small talks that they're coming back, they remember the shows from previous editions of Warsaw Gallery Weekend, that each year that's their tradition. So for us it's also like really important to prepare something great for them.
For the Warsaw Gallery Weekend, we present two exhibitions. One is the Natalia Komarow Karma show, which is in the gallery space, and in our secret garden space, we have a sculptural installation titled Ship by Olaf Brzeski. The Olaf Brzeski installation is a kind of very special family portrait, which is represented by the ship, which is kind of flying over the wild garden here. And the ship consists the feature of the artist as astronaut and his son as an alien, the mother as a sphinx, and the dog, who is like a family dog. Karma by Natalia Sikorska is another chapter of her long-lasting project where the artist is dealing with her own image. And in this case, the topic is the relation between the humans and animals. And actually the artist is giving her creative role to the dogs. And the other dimension of this story is the question of karma, which is in Polish has two meanings. One is this philosophical, spiritual one, and another one is just very technical one. Karma is a pet food. So in this case, the artist is trying to get back the identity of the dead animals, which are killed for the purposes of the mass consumption of meat. So you can recognize the artist's body being shaped, composed on canvases out of the fresh pig skin. So Warsaw Gallery Weekend is the most important date in our gallery calendar. This is the moment when we have like really thousands of people visiting the gallery. But this is important that this is the general public, but there are also like important people as curators, collectors, who are actually coming from all around the country and all around the region and all around Europe. So and all around the world even. So this is really like an important platform for meeting with people who are interested in contemporary art. So we are really proud that the event developed as much as you can see today. Like seeing really like literally 1,000 people coming by. So, which is like a significant proof that the Warsaw became a really important scene of contemporary art within the region.
The thing that we are working now really intensively is to extend the experience of the gallery weekend into the months following and maybe perhaps the whole year. Because we started as an initiative, an event, and we are a little bit, maybe it sounds vain, but we are a little becoming an institution because, for example, we host an international visitors program, which when we basically are responsible for a professional visit of close over 50 people who are here to really deeply experience what this cultural scene has to offer. So we are ambassadors for Polish art scene abroad. We are point of contact to many people, like a first point of contact with contemporary art.
We are from KIM Contemporary Art Center, from Riga, from Latvia, and KIM is a non-profit institution. We do around more than 10 shows every year in Riga and Latvia, and different events. And we have been kindly invited by the Warsaw Gallery Weekend to come here as one of the foreign participating gallery spaces. And we are presenting Latvian artist Eriks Zapalais, who is a painter, quite well-known Latvian painter in his mid-career. Often we go to places like France, Vienna, Germany, and we forget about places that are actually our neighbors, for us being Baltic states, but also Warsaw being really close. And there's actually all this history and memory that we share that is common for us as post-Soviet countries. For Eriks, a lot of his work is based in narratives and memories from his childhood, growing up in the 90s. I think that we can connect all together about as well. And he's kind of reworking these memories in these paintings, talking about different childhood experiences that he had. So we thought it could be relatable for the audience in Warsaw as well.
We all know that art maybe belongs into a museum, in collections, it creates some kind of heritage, but there is a certain period of time when it has to be produced, and it's produced now. And artists are doing it every day and trying to present it to the public to see whether their work is relevant to the current times. So the heritage, our cultural identity has to come from somewhere, and contemporary art is a perfect example of how this heritage is produced and then consumed and maybe later, let's say, solidified in museums and art history books.
And now we turn our gaze to the Alps, where an ancient landscape is changing faster than the maps that define it. Forced to reconsider their borders, Switzerland and Italy have been brought to the negotiating table, not by politics, but by devastating power of a warming world.
Matterhorn, one of Europe's most iconic peaks, surrounded by ski resorts, is now a prime example of the environmental crisis facing the Alpine region. Despite the above-average snowfall last winter and spring giving glaciologists a reason to celebrate, the summer swiftly melted away their enthusiasm. Record-breaking temperatures throughout August marked a disastrous season for glacial ice.
Since 3 weeks, we lost this amount of ice. So 3 weeks ago, the surface of the ice was up here, now it is down here. If we look at this at the annual time scale, last October, the surface was a bit higher than the end of the stake.
Settling dust from the Sahara Desert sped up the damage. The dust gives the ice a browner rosy tint, reducing its ability to reflect sunlight back into the atmosphere. Statistics published last September showed that only last year Switzerland's glaciers lost 4% of their volume. This comes just after the record-breaking melt of 2022, when at least 6% of the ice vanished.
If the trend continues that we have seen in this year, this will be a disaster for Swiss glaciers. They will completely or almost completely disappear by the end of the century. So it is needed that the temperatures don't warm so quickly as they have in the last years or decades.
The broader negotiations took years, with Switzerland only approving the final draft in late 2023. Italy is expected to follow suit. However, the impact of this glacier melt extends far beyond shifting borders. In July 2023, the retreating ice around the Matterhorn revealed the remains of a German climber who had been missing since 1986. Just 2 years earlier, wreckage from a 1968 plane crash surfaced from the melting Alps glacier. A Swiss monitoring body has warned that some of the country's glaciers are shrinking at such an alarming rate that they may be beyond saving, even if global temperatures remain within the Paris Climate Agreement's ambitious 1.5 degrees Celsius target. Without significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, large glaciers like the Alps could vanish within a generation.
And now we go to Turkey, a nation with a rich history which spans both Asia and Europe. Amid its rolling hills, Turkey's wine industry is experiencing a quiet revival as modern winemakers rediscover ancient indigenous grape varieties. This resurgence is gaining in popularity amongst connoisseurs abroad, highlighting the significance of the Bosporus and Dardanelles, two straits that have long been crucial to trade and geopolitical dispute throughout the ages.
Vineyards in Turkey cover nearly 470,000 acres, making it the 5th largest grape-producing country in the world, after Spain, China, France and Italy. The country boasts around 1,400 distinct indigenous grape varieties, yet most vineyards focus on producing grapes or raisins. Each Each year, Turkey produces 4 million tons of grapes, with 2 million of those being table grapes, while a significant portion is allocated for raisin production and export.
Wine is an incredible product for Turkey because we are one of the oldest terroirs in the world. And some people call Turkey the New World wine. And it's true, we have a new style of wine that is emerging in Turkey, which is a very high quality, ambitious style. So that is new, but we are also the oldest country to produce wine.
While Turkey's winemaking tradition dates back thousands of years, much of the country's winemaking knowledge was lost during the Ottoman Empire, when wine production was banned for Muslims.
Turkey, when I arrived, I found mostly the international variety, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, also because the local market required this kind of wine. During these 20 years, I saw many new wine that were coming, new varieties we discovered.
Modern winemakers are also struggling with climate change and government regulations. Though the country produces high-quality wines, selling them has become increasingly difficult. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's conservative government has placed significant barriers on wine production. Strict taxes, limits on marketing and bans on online sales have made it difficult for producers to reach consumers, both domestically and abroad.
The new generation is very interested in wines. Maybe they see wine tasting as a game, a new hobby which can help them improve themselves. There are some things we fear in winemaking. We wonder if we will regress. But by looking at these past 5 years, we see that we will go much further. The peak increases during these past 5 years will only improve in the next years.
While Turkish wines remain something of a hidden gem, wine experts believe it has a huge potential on the international market. Boutique producers have started to focus more on what makes Turkey unique, its ancient grape varieties, some of which are among the oldest in the world.
If we lose this vineyard and this grape variety, we cannot replace it. It doesn't grow anywhere else. This grape variety is almost 100 years old. If it disappears, we won't have any alternatives for it. This is why we value old vineyards.
A new wave of winemakers have emerged, experimenting with indigenous grape varieties. Local varieties like Narince and Karasakis are gaining recognition, and some producers have found success exporting to markets abroad.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of In Focus. So all that's left is for me to say cheers and have a great day ahead. Goodbye for now.